Welcome everybody. And with that said, let's start by really jumping in. And I'm going to share my screen so we can get our conversation going. Can everybody see my screen? I think so, or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you see the PowerPoint though? I don't think so. You should be seeing it now. Do you see that now?
Feelings wheel.
Say that again?
I'm seeing the feelings wheel.
Oh, no, that's not what you guys are going to see. Let's make sure you're seeing the right thing here. Let me share a screen again, and hopefully this time is the right one. Are you seeing the Zen brain?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're in the right screen because I have like what? I think 35 screens open. So I want to make sure you see the right one. So today we are going to move to something that is going to tie what we learned about fear, what we learned about emotions and emotional regulation to tie it back together, which is attention. Let's talk about attention. But as you have learned so far in our sessions, we don't just jump into learning, we jump into checking in with ourselves. So let's take a pause, let's take a breath, and check with ourselves about this question, which we're going to share with the group. Based on what you learned in these sessions, what do you notice in yourself? And since we're a small group, I open it to everybody to share. Who wants to go first? Whenever you are done processing it.
The thing that's coming up to me is this is Lena, by the way. The thing that's coming up to me is, well, first of all, I'm grateful. The timing of this is so amazing, considering all that's going on in our world right now very actively. And so that's what I'm noticing. It's all of my emotions are sitting much higher, much more on the surface. Than they have been perhaps up until just the past week and a half. And so I think cumulatively over these 3 weeks, this has been helping me in this process. So thank you.
No, thank you for sharing. And thank you for bringing up what can happen for us. Even though, things take time for human beings to change, but at the same time, we are able, when we are vested in something, we are able to see how change can happen. I really appreciate you sharing that, Lena. Who else wants to go? Anybody else? Did you guys have any epiphany, any like, oh, this, I didn't even think about it, whatever the case?
Hi, Kathy. This is Elle.
Hi, Elle.
So these sessions have been coinciding with me reading The 10-Second Miracle by Gay Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just a reminder, and it reinforces to check in and see where we're feeling maybe discomfort, disease in the body, and then also kind of exploring what the matching emotion is.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's nice to have it as a reinforcement. You read it, you hear it, you practice it.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you for sharing, Elle. Do you feel like that other work that you have been doing is something beneficial for the group to share with them?
I definitely think it's a book that, especially since we talked about pushing down emotions or not fully embodying them because of, whatever societal pressures or norms, it is helpful. Yeah, this book, I think it touches on both those things of exploring exactly where in the body is. And I guess the neck and jaw, maybe the headache is signs, and also kind of like the shoulders. And he calls it something that he compares to animals. That's where I think the mama, let's say tiger, kind of bites onto the baby tiger. I forget what it's called. It starts with an H, but apparently those areas are concerned with anger. And then I think if you feel something like unease in your stomach, it has to do with fear. Your heart is more emotions concerned with longing. And I think the throat was sadness.
Sadness, right.
I didn't realize, but usually before even a tear comes, you kind of tighten up and it kind of feels, you know.
You're choking up.
Yes, precisely.
Right. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that resource with the group, because in my experience, a lot of times people find it really hard, if I can talk, to connect their emotions with what's happening physiologically.
Yes. This has been a total learning experience for me since starting the book and hearing more from you.
Lovely, lovely. I love how you're combining this. And for people who are on this call today and people who might listen to us later, there is another layer to this, which is the physical pain and physical diseases that we might be experiencing. Some of them have emotional roots. So see, the body has a healing cycle when it comes to the changes to the physiology or being hurt or injured. And if you are harboring that back pain or the shoulder tightness or that headache past a reasonable amount of time, it is time to think differently about it, because there might not be any more physical reasons associated with it, rather than you're harboring some emotional thing going on in you. So the idea of pain management based on the emotions is a very fascinating field. If you guys know somebody who is dealing with that kind of a pain, is something to bring it up to them in case they're interested in following further. Thank you, Elle, for sharing.
Thank you.
So let's move on. A quick review with what we learned in these 2 sessions together. We learned about regaining productivity and emotional regulations. We learned that the brain can change, as you guys, some of you are already experiencing in this relatively short amount of time. Effort, practice, and intention are needed. And our lizard brain gets activated easily. Our lizard brain has negative bias. Whenever our status quo is disrupted, resilience is a skill set, and awareness have to change. Now, emotions are key in accessing our brain's superpower. And through emotional regulation, we strengthen areas of our brain that allow us to respond or react, or not react, actually, I should say. Our lizard brain plays a role. We have a stress response, we have an emotional response, but that's unconsciously happening in us. And resilience doesn't come as a package in us, the same way that we have a nose and the cheeks and the hair. We have to develop that in ourselves. And learning to take actions based on awareness of emotions is a key. Now, you guys have seen this before, so I'm not gonna, because you guys are repeating people, I'm not gonna go to this. And also you guys know about me, so I'm not gonna go through this again too. Let's see what you will discover today. How can you strengthen your front of the brain? That we have talked about it kind of extensively in these sessions. What practice can help you strengthen that area of the brain? Because we said that this doesn't come out of the package for you. So how can you build that in yourself? So we're going to talk about the art of being present and how will you be able to handle stress and anxiety much more effectively. There is nobody in here that can tell me I will never have a stress in my life. Nothing makes me anxious. I am always feeling very put together. Is there anybody here? Because I want to meet you too. If you say any of that, you might be a monk, because even monks have up and down too. So that's part of what we're going to learn and discover together with us. As always, one of the key areas for us is to build a community, which some of you that are repeating, you are probably going to end up talking more and you're going to get to know each other more. And if you decide to stay in touch, one of the ways is joining our private Facebook group that you can apply to join. And we'll talk about that. Now, let's start with a breakout room. And it will be probably 2 rooms since we are small. And I want to invite you to think about that. Some of you shared already, but maybe in a breakout room, since it is a more intimate space, you can share more of how have you been able to be more present to how you feel between last week and this week. If you think that you have been more present to your feelings the same way that Lena shared with us or Elle shared with us, then really be with how does it feel for you? What are you noticing overall in how you feel, in your emotions, in the way that you are acting in this world? And if no, that hasn't been accessible to you, that's totally fine too. We are all humans and we have limited amount of time. And trust me, staying sane and healthy at this time is the #1 priority. So I invite you, if you said no, to see what came in your way, what could have happened or what can happen moving forward that you can experience that. So with that said, let's stop the share and I'm going to put you out in the breakout rooms. So we're going to have only 2 rooms. So let's create the rooms and good luck with having your discussions. Let me tell you, I'll give you guys 6 minutes for this, so kind of 3 minutes each, which is pretty generous. If you are a group of 3, divide the time accordingly between each other. Thank you guys and see you soon. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had some productive time together. And I would love to hear from you guys on what came up for you, especially those of you that you answered what really came up for you. That the answer was no, I couldn't do anything based on what I learned. So let's hear from you.
Although I didn't actually share in the breakout, I'll share now just a little bit.
Okay.
There wasn't a load of time, but yeah, day to day. So a good example was this evening. I was getting quite frustrated because my son was so energetic and it was bedtime and it was really fun and really sweet and great. But at the same time, I could feel myself building. And I just said, and I just had to walk away. I knew that, I don't shout at him. It's not something that's part of my parenting style, but I could just feel myself about to maybe roar like a lion or something, and just frustration bubbling up. And I was able to just hold on to it and walk into my bedroom and just sort of stand near where my wife was working on her laptop and just allow it to lower a little bit before I went back and finished off the bedtime routine.
Wow, I can really relate to that, Alex. Whenever I go outside my office and my kids are still on the screen playing Fortnite, it is exactly the way I feel. And at the same time, I get frustrated with myself that as a parent, what else can I do for them at this time? So I really understand what you say. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because there is something to learn for all of us from what Alex shared. And that is that distance, that moment that we feel like something is happening. Maybe I'm becoming a lion. I like that lion thing that you said. And being able to distance ourselves from that in that moment, it takes a lot of power. Even in the small instance of dealing with a child, imagine how many times that happens in your life when you are dealing with clients, if you're an entrepreneur, when you're dealing with your boss. We all have all kinds of scenarios in our lives, in our everyday lives. Anybody else wants to share before we move on? I know, Afruz, you didn't get a chance to be in the breakout room. Do you want to share with the group? Let me unmute you first.
Yeah, I was in the breakout room, and for the most part, I was actually talking, but then, you know, I got disconnected. So, no, I was saying that I've been always, you know, looking for a practical way to be able to implement it in my life, because knowing that, yes, you know, emotions, you know, we should be able to observe them, to acknowledge them. But in a day-to-day life that is so busy, being a mom and wife and full-time employee, it is sometimes when you're on the run, it is hard to take the moment and look at what's going on with you. But probably because one of the reasons that I've been able to do a better job, you know, recently is probably quarantine. The fact that I can, you know, lay down in my bed in the morning without, you know, rushing, and take a couple of deep breaths and, you know, find myself and center myself and then get on with my life. That has been, I think, very helpful.
Definitely, you know, the speed of our lives have come down considerably. I know that nobody needs to be at the soccer practice. The soccer practice is at the Zoom, and my child practices piano with Zoom. We don't have to drive
Yeah.
45 minutes for a half an hour piano lesson. So yes, that is changing the landscape of the stress and time constraints in our lives. But you know, there is something in here to consider, because we will not be in quarantine forever. And I have clients that already are coming to me and saying, I have reopening anxiety. And that's a real thing, because for not all of us are like really looking forward to jumping into freeways. Especially in LA, the freeway is the symbol of crowdedness. So let's move on with that and see how you can build more of that in your life. Not just these 3 sessions, not just for quarantine, but how can you build more of that in your life? Let's continue with that. Thank you for sharing. So let me continue with where we were. And you should be able to see my screen again. And let's look at our game plan again, the game plan that we have been following together in these weeks. We talked about accepting that we have a lizard brain and a negative bias towards fear. We talked about awareness of when that lizard brain is overactive. We talked about asking, do I want to change? And we talked about taking action. Now, this session, I'm going to talk about accountability and acknowledgement. And accountability and acknowledgement are the elements that if we start doing them and build foundation, these will become part of our life, not just a nice to have when everything else is closed, when we are doomed to be quarantined, but really part of our life, because life is not going to be like this probably forever. It will change at one point. So I'm going to ask you this. Who has downloaded the actionable booklets that I made them available to you? Show of hands. I see none.
Sorry.
No. The intention is not sorry, Alex. The intention is to show the gap that we can all experience. And I'm the master of being in that gap personally. The gap, we go to a workshop, meeting, seminar, talk, whatever, and we're like, oh my God, this makes sense. And these are not that hard. I mean, definitely, this is much easier than algebra and calculus and a lot of other things that we have put in our brains at one time. Everybody has at least studied physics at some time, right? I'm assuming everybody studies physics in a school. But so this is kind of, in my opinion, feels like much simpler concept-wise, but guys, the big gap in here, and this is the discovery of the universe that I'm sharing with you, is that it is simple, but not easy. Algebra, calculus, physics, those things are complicated. But once you've mastered it, it's universal and you can do it whatever, whenever you want it. But these things are very simple concepts, in my opinion, to a great degree. But when we want to implement them in our life, God, that's a different story. When do I find time to do that? Even if she's giving me the resource, will I be able to go download it, take a look at it, print it, do it? So that's where we all get stopped, because we learn the concepts. So you're all smart people on this call. You learn the concepts, but between learning and actualization or embodiment, there is that huge gap the size of Grand Canyon. Those of you who have been to Grand Canyon. And Alex, I know that you probably are in UK, you don't have Grand Canyon that we have in US. Grand Canyon is a really huge canyon, so you can imagine the gap. That's why I'm mentioning that. So it brings us to this point. The thing that I have been emphasizing in our work together, information is not transformation. You get information from this series, you get information from millions of people out there, especially nowadays. There's a ton of free, amazing content going on. But what makes the real change for you is you're sitting with yourself and building things in you and in your life. So that's why accountability and acknowledgement are so important for us. So let's see how we can go about it. I'm going to show you a video here. Hey guys, we even have a movie night in our sessions. So I'm going to show you a video here. And this video is going to put things into perspective for you. How is it going to do that? Because in this video, it's simply showing you the 3 different parts of our brain. And our brain is an amazing, complicated system that everything needs to work in harmony. So the lizard brain, it has to be there when we need it to serve its purpose. So we cannot say it's all bad rep. Or the prefrontal cortex, sometimes we do not need it as much, the front of the brain, that I am giving it such a good rep. So the thing is, we have to be able to access different parts of our brain at the right time. This is the key. How can we optimize our access to different parts of our brain? With that said, I'm going to run the movie. I'm sorry I didn't give you warning to go and get your popcorn, but imagine that you are having popcorn while you are watching the movie, and enjoy. So let's stop here. What came up for you guys when you watched that? And let's make sure that it doesn't go to the other one. What came up for you when you saw this? Did we have these interesting parts of our brain that each of them can serve us differently?
Well, I want to say real quick, thank you, because I've never seen it explained like that. And so I'm a very, very visual learner. So that really helped me. I've only really ever heard about the reptilian, and talking about it in terms of the evolution of it is great. And what came up for me, though, specifically to that, is considering that the primate, they said has evolved over all these years, and it is the larger, and it wraps all of it. That's the part I feel like is missing. People aren't using that part of their brain in our society right now.
Lena, you hit the nail on the head. As a matter of fact, I was in a discussion yesterday. We were talking about if there is ethics in leadership. And we realized maybe ethics, or that feelings or emotions or right or wrong or how we feel towards this thing is not serving capitalism. So that's why we don't have it. I mean, there is something in there. It's a very deeper discussion, but yes, some of the things we have eliminated it from certain societies. Like I come from a society that when I left that country, that part of the brain was very active in people. But it was 20 years ago, so I don't think it's the same right now. But the modernization and the fact that we are allowing the machinery to do a lot of things, or we rely on internet or information so much, it can lead us to the fact that we forget about parts of our brain. So I appreciate your sharing, and we are going to move to the fact that the real superpower in here is the switching and the ability to switch between all these different parts of the brain and states. The same way, when Alex shared that he didn't want to be a lion, he was able to tame himself the moment that he was feeling it. By this, and I said, I feel the same when I get out of my office. By the same token, if somebody bullies my child, I need to become the lion. If somebody attacks my child in the park, I need to become the lion. If there's a physical attack, I'm talking, not just verbal, because that's a different story. But if somebody is harming his body, I have to be able to take action. I cannot just sit and think and analyze it and decide, oh, do I want to take action? Yeah, because somebody is hitting your child. So this is where we need to be able to practice maneuvering between these different areas. So you will be asking me, Kathy, okay, we get it, but how can we develop this superpower? Are you guys interested in learning about that? Are you curious? Okay, I see one Tom. Thank you, Robert. So I see more Toms. Good, thank you. So obviously, you want to learn about this. I think I would be curious if I were you. And the key in here is paying attention to your attention. You have to be able to be available in the moment to see what is it that is needed in this moment from you, from your attention. If my child is being attacked by, say, an eagle, I need to act quick, but I have to be fully present in this moment. To be able to do that, I have to be paying attention. If my head is stuck in my phone, the eagle can come and take my child and leave, and I will be stuck in my phone. You see that element of attention, how big that can be? If I want to be able to see when my husband is telling me, I feel so sad that I cannot go to my office. if I want to make him feel he's heard and felt, and make him feel like he has a connection with me, I need to be able to look at him in the eye and be there for him. If I am thinking about my own day and the workshop that I am having with you guys while listening to him, I'm physically present, but I'm not really listening to him, and he will feel that, even if no words are exchanged. That's the amazing thing about attention. A lot of times, people are not even exchanging words, but we feel if they are distracted. Think about how many times you have been in a meeting, and even in a virtual meeting, and you feel that the person is checking their email while they are in meeting with you. How does that make you feel? Can they be present with you at the same time and be listening to you? No. Let's not even fool ourselves. So that is the piece. How do I pay attention to my attention? So we go to the idea of training our attention, which I call it mindfulness practice. So that is a particular way of looking at the attention, because attention and what happens in our brain when we say attention is a whole workshop of itself, is a whole different area. So we are just touching it in here. So I want to be very clear. We are just touching something in here. And so what is a mindfulness practice? It is paying attention to present moment experiences with certain qualities, with openness, with curiosity, and with a willingness to be with what is happening. And I really believe in the word kindly in here, with kindness. A lot of times we go to situations with perceived notions. We feel like we know everything. So we cannot open ourselves to examine them. We need to be able to open ourselves and be curious so we can be present. If you are going to, for example, you're here sitting listening to me, right? And if you feel like, I know what she's going to say, you're not going to be listening to me anymore, because you're telling yourself, I know what she's going to say. But if you're curious and say, hey, maybe she has something to say that I don't know, or I can explore, then you will bring the element of curiosity. So another aspect of it is willingness to be with what it is. You see how we have talked about our emotions, and the fact that whenever we didn't go deep in this, because this is not the intent of our work in here right now, but one of the biggest things is that we as humans, we don't want to go to difficult emotions. We don't want to do it. We just want to feel like everything is okay, everything is under control, because we can be afraid. And so when we are not willing to go there, we can never really allow ourselves to be with it, be with them, and see really what's happening for us. I gave you that example, I think, last week. So all these things that I'm telling you, it is a practice. I started practicing meditation, but Zen focused meditation in 1999. And I was on and off practicing and all of that. But when I found mindfulness as a practice to focus, as a way of training the attention, I saw changes that I couldn't see with my 15 years of practice of Zen, but it was on and off, I should say. But the element of reflection is what is important in here, that we are all trying to build together. So if you ask me, Kathy, does it have any benefits for me if I start doing it? I have given you enough benefits around your brain, but what does that mean in your life? Definitely you can reduce the stress. Definitely you can improve paying attention to what is it that you're doing. You know how many times I hear people coming and saying, I cannot focus. How many times people are coming and saying, I have to do a PhD dissertation, but I cannot even put my mind together. Yes, if we are stressed, if we do not know how to deal with it, we cannot focus, we cannot concentrate. And then people consider it procrastination. Who here has dealt with procrastination? Yours truly, the number one procrastinator in the universe, right? I was always wondering, what is this procrastination? Why don't you do the thing? Why do you leave it till the last minute, Kathy? And sometimes I was feeling like I just want to challenge myself that I can do it in the last minute. You know, like studying for the exam, the last minute. But sometimes it is just emotional. There is something deeper going on that I don't want to deal with it, so I just avoid it. And that's true for all of us. We can be more self-aware of our emotions, of how we are handling ourselves in the world. We can be able to regulate our emotions. We can improve our relationships because we decide, when do I want to be a lion? When do I not want to be a lion? We can take care of ourselves because we are paying attention. What is it that is going on inside me? Instead of being a machine that is, okay, I have to go to work, I have to eat, I have to do exercise, I have to be with my kids. You see how mechanical that feels? At one point in my life, I had that life, and I was like, and I had really an existential crisis personally every day of my life. I was like, did I sign up to live my life like this? I mean, seriously, let's talk here. Let's see, something is happening in the chat. Let me see. Oh, yeah. I have definitely competition for that, Alex, for sure, in terms of procrastination. But this is the thing, guys. We need to, this was me at one point thinking, I'm doing all the right things, but it is so, it might be so mechanical that we are not even able to connect with it. Even going to the gym, if you feel like this is something in my to-do list, your relationship is different from it when you enjoy going to the gym. Granted that we have a gym to go to. That's still under opening. So consider all these things. And there is a ton of, if anybody is interested, I have a ton of research. I am a fellow with UCLA Mindfulness Awareness Research Center in their program, and we have a ton of research. I have a ton of research. If anybody is interested on how mindfulness can bring down the inflammation, which can impact getting cancer, getting diabetes, neurological disorders, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune diseases, arthritis, digestive diseases, pulmonary diseases, which is now very important with the corona going on. I have a ton of research. If anybody is interested, we can look into that. But the most important thing regarding our work together was that we have the emotional regulation. There is a ton of research on how this attention training allows us to decide, how do I want to feel? That movie that you guys just saw is one of the contributors is Rick Hansen, and he has been one of my teachers. And one of the best things that I have learned from him is that how you can hardwire happiness in your brain. It doesn't happen that you wake up every day and feel like, oh, this is the greatest day of my life. No, it doesn't work like that. We don't live in the Alice in Wonderland life, but we can allow ourselves to see things differently, even under difficult circumstances. I wanted to just give you one thing out of the research, so some of you feel good, like you saw something researchy, and that is the impact on the brain structure. And this is something that we did on me because I had to do some fMRIs on my own brain. And the impact on the brain structure, this can show how really your brain structure can change by doing this attention training and by paying attention to your emotions, training, and the particular way that I mentioned to you. So one part of it is being able to be present. Because if you pay attention, we live a lot of times in the past, what could I have done? And a lot of times in the future, what could I do to get to whatever island we think we want to get to? And the result is that we are not able to be fully present because we are dueling between these two ends. So with that said, let's go to the breakout room together and discuss with your partner. How do you feel about your attention and concentration abilities? And I'm going to ask you this. You leave this session and this workshop. What do you think you're going to commit to do differently based on what you learned? So let's stop sharing and let's open the breakout rooms. And let me just recreate all of it. Yes, let's open all of our rooms, and I'm gonna give you guys, well, let's say 2 minutes to share.
Kathy, I think I accepted leaving the breakout room a little early.
You got thrown out back into the main room.
The pop-up came, and I just, clicked on it. I should some time.
You know that experience, that thing that you're talking about, respond versus react.
Right. No, I had to
I'm
read.
kidding.
You read it, it tells you, for example,
Yeah.
50 seconds is, I did not read. I just, yeah, that's the thing. The response, the impulse. And Kathy, that's the interesting part. That's part of you. That's part of me. Even if we go with the zodiac, so I don't know how many people believe in zodiacs, but my zodiac, I'm an Aries.
Uh-huh.
So I jump into everything.
Welcome back, everybody. Good to have you back.
Fruz, I did the same thing once, and I was actually leading the breakout session, and I bounced myself out of the meeting I was leading. Yeah, I feel you.
It happens to all of us, right? In this day and age. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys had some productive time. And in the interest of time, I'm gonna go back to our sharing the screen. Okay. So now that you guys have learned about this, you've learned about this attention training, I really want to encourage you to do this. We don't have the time or this time to sit down together, but that's something that is really our accountability. Oh, let me make sure to mute you guys. Okay, that it is something that is really, the practice is really our accountability. And if you want to take action, acknowledge to yourself and notice in yourself that you want to start maybe with a couple minutes. At first, you need to learn the technique, obviously. So I'll think about you can find some places that they can, or some people who can teach you. I will tell you what I can help with. But notice in yourself, start with a couple minutes, commit to practice, 30 minutes a day. And I don't say 30 minutes a day is going to happen to you that fast. Give it a year. So I'm saying it lightly here, but give it a year before you can go to 30 minutes. Stick with the 5 minutes for 3 months, and then little by little increase it. But the intention is not here to focus on this. So that's why I'm very light on this. And you can notice change after as little as 8 weeks about how you will feel differently, because you are making the change in your brain, in the formation and the structure of your brain. And you are building resilience so that you have access to that switch. That resilience is that switching that we talked about, the capacity to recover quickly from challenges and adversities. So next steps, this day brings us to a final in our series together. And it has been my honor to serve you. I'm grateful to Maslow and Blank Spaces for offering this opportunity so we can have this time together. So the next steps, I put together a cheat sheet for you that I will ask our friend Robert in here to send it to you when he sends the email. So I'm going to review the actions with you guys so you can think about how you want to close that gap, that Grand Canyon gap that I told you between learning and action, how you can close that gap. So I'm going to go through the checklist real quick. You can download the actionable booklets. Here is the link, and I will add the one for this session. You can apply to join our leadership private group. You can apply in here. You can book a complimentary discovery session to discuss group coaching. That's something you can do again in here. I have, because of the Corona situation, I have been offering spot coaching, which I normally don't do, but there are times that people just need a sounding board in this day and age to discuss a particular question or situation. You can do that in here. You can give us your feedback and testimony also. Obviously, we offer this for free. That was the intention. We loved having you with us. And, you know, if you learned, if this was beneficial to you, please share a testimonial with us. So when we take this to other places, we can tell them, hey guys, your time is worthwhile, because time is our biggest currency in this life. So it is important for us to be able to share with other people that, hey, this is really valuable. So you're helping us to bring this more into the universe, and you're helping other people to experience whatever you experienced by attending our workshop. And joining drop-in mindfulness practice. I have an ongoing group, and I opened just a new group for whoever wants to go out of this workshop. Join, come, show up, take action. Important, take action. You learned all of these things, but it is time for you to think, how do I take action so I can close that gap? With that said, it has been lovely having you guys. We are right at 1 p.m. I stay to answer any questions you might have, and I hope to see some of you guys in our other events or in the group coaching, and best of luck to you.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. I hope you can write us a testimonial to share.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm glad to have, I'll look forward to getting those links. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. This was really good. We were glad you could host these for us and taking your time to share what you know.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate the opportunity. Oh, and I forgot that, you know, when we go to the group coaching, Maslow is going to play a part for us, because we are going to use part of their AI-based tool to see how we're going to change over the course of our work together. I'm glad you talked to me to mention that. Oh, and because
John, so I just wanted to make sure that we have all the links, especially, you know, I'm more curious about that drop-in link regarding the mindfulness practice. So I don't know if you're going to send a presentation or the links, which one is it, but
I will make sure, Robert, let's talk offline.
Okay.
Make sure that we can get the links to the attendees.
Right.
Based on that sheet. We'll make sure that everybody who attended gets the links.
Yeah.
perfect.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Kathy. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Alex. Have a good night.
Bye,
Thank
have a
you.
good night.
Take
And
care.
Robert, I was so glad earlier to hear you say that you're specifically working with foster. Did you say you're working with the CSWs in the foster care system?
yeah.
I was a foster mother for a while, a few years ago. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with different agencies and different classes, and it's so needed. I'm so glad to know.
Oh
that
yeah.
the
I'll
industry is getting-
follow up with you, and you can tell me more about your experiences.
I would love to do that. I'm so
Okay.
thrilled. I'm so thrilled you're doing it. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Nice
Thanks,
meeting
everyone.
you. Bye.
Thank
Okay,
you,
bye.
Kathy. Thank you, Robert.
Thank
Welcome.
you for joining us. Bye, Robert.
Bye, Kathy.